Hi, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. So welcome to Introduction to Classroom Wellbeing Information and Strategies for Educators, known as WISE, and Cultural Inclusiveness and Equity, CIE. Next slide, please. This webinar is sponsored by the Northeastern Caribbean Mental Health Technology Transfer Center, or MHTTC, and we're housed at Rutgers in the School of Health Professions in the Department of Psychiatric Rehabilitation and Counseling Professions. My name is Kathy Rivera, and I'm the project coordinator of the center, and I will be introducing our webinar speaker today. Next slide, please. The MHTTC is funded by SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, to enhance the capacity of the behavioral health workforce to deliver evidence-based and promising practices to individuals with mental health conditions. We also offer training programs on evidence-based practices for serious mental health conditions, wellness and recovery for providers and people with mental health conditions, school mental health, comprehensive multi-tiered supports and services, Hispanic and Latinx mental health education, online education courses on topics such as wellness matters, IMR, functional thinking, and more. Next slide, please. Just a reminder that all of our training programs, products, and services that we offer, including our technical assistance, are available to you at no cost. Next slide. And if you're interested in staying up to date with the events and products that our center is providing, please sign up to receive our email communications. You can sign up by scanning the QR code that you see on your screen, and I will also share this link in the chat box. Next slide. Following this webinar, you'll be asked to complete a brief survey. We value this feedback and use it to improve and inform our future activities and events. The surveys are also important because our continued funding is linked to the completion of them, so we thank you in advance for your participation. We also want to let you know that this webinar is being recorded and will be posted to our website within 7 days of this webinar broadcast, along with the PDF version of today's presenter slides. At the time of this presentation, Marian Delphin Rittman served as Acting Assistant Secretary for Mental Health and Substance Use at SAMHSA. The opinions expressed herein are the views of the speakers and do not reflect the official position of the Department of Health and Human Services, DHHS, or SAMHSA. No official support or endorsement of DHHS or SAMHSA for the opinions described in this presentation is intended or should be inferred. We encourage you to interact with our presenter during this webinar by using the chat feature. Please post any questions or comments you have in the chat, and I'll collect your questions as we go, and I'll ask them of the presenter during the Q&A time towards the end of the presentation. During the webinar, the presenter may pose questions to you. So please use the chat feature to answer them. Just as a reminder, the MHTTC network is committed to using affirming, respectful, and recovery-oriented language in all activities. And on your screen, you'll see a list of our principles in this inclusive language, as well as in our products and services. Next slide, please. So now let's begin our webinar. We have Stuart Luther with us today. Stuart is a school mental health coordinator for the Northeastern Caribbean Mental Health Technology Transfer Center. Stuart has 10 years of experience working with youth in youth development and advocacy. He has been with the center for the past 2 years, during which he's worked to support the region school in implementing evidence-based practices to support student and staff social and emotional well-being. Stuart is also a licensed counselor and works in a New Jersey high school as a school-based mental health clinician, where he provides direct care to students as well as guidance for the school's mental health practices. Stuart's passion and clinical focus is providing school-based, person-centered, and trauma-informed care to historically underserved populations, including those who identify as LGBTQIA+. Now I will turn it over to Stuart, and again, welcome.
Hello, welcome everyone. I'm really excited to be here with you all today. I know it's a little early, maybe not super early, if we are all education folks. I know that we're early risers, but I just want to take a second to introduce the topic today and give everyone just a chance to take a breath and anticipate that this is where we're going to be for the next, let's say, 55 minutes or so until around 9 o'clock, and kind of being mindful and bringing intention into this moment and allowing ourselves to give ourselves the opportunity just to be here and be present. I, again, am excited to be here and share with you today about Classroom WISE, which is a free 3-part package for K-12 educators and school personnel to support student mental health, as well as the newly developed companion to Classroom WISE, which is called Culturally Inclusiveness and Equity WISE. So what we'll do first is I just want to run through a quick agenda of what we're going to be doing today. And first, we're going to touch on how and why Classroom WISE was developed. We're going to discuss a little bit about that Classroom WISE content. This is really the meat of what I would anticipate many of you are hoping to learn today. We'll also discuss some additional Classroom WISE resources so that you feel totally prepared to kind of think through what Classroom WISE could look like for your school. And that includes some implementation tools and potential considerations for you. And then finally, the last thing that we'll do is discuss the CIE WISE, Cultural Inclusiveness and Equity WISE, and some of the course content there as well. And I do want to encourage you throughout the process, if you do have any questions, just let me know. Kati will be in the chat as well, kind of monitoring to see if there's anything that we can answer on the fly. And we also will have a Q&A at the end of the session as well. But I want to encourage you to engage in the way that you feel the most comfortable. If that's in the chat, that's wonderful. If you have a question that you have for the end, also great. I noticed that it seemed like we had my first bot in the chat as a presenter, but it seems like we've taken care of that and made sure that this is a space that we can all feel safe and comfortable in. So we're going to start off with how and why Classroom WISE was created. So this is really going to be our basis as to kind of how we got here. And to do this is first just another brief overview of the Mental Health Technology Transfer Center, the network of those centers. Kati shared a bit about this at the start of the training, but as a quick review, we are a collaborative network that supports resource development and dissemination, training and technical assistance, and workforce development for the mental health field. The network was established in 2018 and is funded by SAMHSA. We have 10 regional centers, a National American Indian and Alaskan Native Center, a National Hispanic and Latino Center, as well as the National Network Coordinating Office. And what we do is use implementation science research to inform the training and technical assistance that we provide. And that includes learning sessions, learning communities, online courses, face-to-face trainings when possible, of course, and conferences. We also develop products, including fact sheets, curricula, and tools to help implement mental health evidence-based practices. Many of those things you'll be exposed to in some way or another throughout today's training. So we're going to go back a few years, back to 2018, to the very beginning of the initiatives that have led us to where we are today with Classroom WISE and CIE WISE. So in August of 2018, which at this point feels like an eternity ago, our network also received supplemental funding to address the need for further implementation of mental health services in school systems. Through our school mental health initiative, our regional and national centers are leading learning opportunities and trainings around numerous school and mental health topic areas. And through this supplement, the network developed a wonderful partnership with the National Center for School Mental Health. The MHTTC network first partnered with the National Center in late 2018 to develop a national resource on school mental health best practices. And these focus on the core features of effective school mental health systems. And together, our network and the National Center also co-led a national school mental health learning community in 2019. And this was done to advance school mental health policies and practices that included over 200 state and district mental health and education leaders from about 38 different states. In 2019, our network was asked by our funder to develop a training package to assist educators in supporting the mental health of students in the classroom. We again partnered with the National Center for School Mental Health, and we partnered with them to start off by asking a lot of questions. And we did this through conducting an environmental scan of educator mental health literacy trainings and resources that were already available in the field. And we also conducted a national needs assessment to help us understand what educators, school mental health staff, and mental health and education leaders across the country felt was really needed for students to better support students in their classrooms. So we took that environmental scan, reviewed it, and also looked at that needs assessment and started out by developing a resource. And that resource was titled Supporting Student Mental Health, Resource to Prepare Educators. Very specific name, right? And this describes the role of educators in supporting the student mental health and provides a list of existing resources and trainings that instruct educators on mental health literacy. And we didn't stop there, of course. And from that work, we conducted focus groups with a diverse group of teachers from different grade levels, ethnic backgrounds, and years of experience. We also held one-on-one interviews with mental health and education leaders. And through this process of inquiry, what became very clear to us is that teachers understand that they are critical in supporting student well-being and want to support this mental health of their students. But what they need is additional support and to learn how to best be able to do that. And these findings guided us in the development of Classroom WISE, this 3-part package that really focuses on educator mental health literacy. And of course, that's why we're here today, here learning about Classroom WISE. So as a kind of brief overview of Classroom WISE, again, what we've discussed earlier, or I mentioned earlier, is that Classroom WISE is a 3-part package that focuses on educator mental health literacy. And that includes the online course itself, those 6 modules that are all self-paced, a video library, plus a pretty extensive resource collection, and the website are all resources to you that are a part of this package. And so now I'm going to take a quick break from you having to hear my voice, and I'm going to play an introductory video of Classroom WISE. I'll note this does repeat a little bit of content that I've shared, but I do want to share with you this video, one, because it will give you a little bit more background information, but it also is a really good example of the quality of the content that you can expect when you take the course. We'll touch on this a little bit more later, but the package includes an extensive video library that houses all the videos that are also threaded throughout each module. And these also include teacher testimonials as well as student testimonials, some of which you'll see right here.
On behalf of the MHTTC Network and our partner, the National Center for School Mental Health at the University of Maryland School.
Whoops. Let's try that again.
On behalf of the MHTTC Network and our partner, the National Center for School Mental Health at the University of Maryland School of Medicine, welcome to Classroom WISE. Funded by the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, the MHTTC Network, Mental Health Technology Transfer Center Network, includes 10 regional centers, a national American Indian and Alaska Native Center, a national Hispanic and Latino center, and our network coordinating office. We provide free training and technical assistance to help disseminate and implement evidence-based mental health prevention, treatment, and recovery practices.
Through our School Mental Health Initiative, we provide technical assistance on the implementation of school mental health services to states, tribes, districts, and schools. Please be sure to connect with your MHTTC Regional or National Focus Area Center to find out about training and technical assistance in your area.
Funded by the Health Resources and Services Administration, the National Center for School Mental Health focuses on advancing research, training, policy, and practice in school mental health. We encourage you to engage with our National Center to access resources and support as you build and enhance your school mental health system. We also invite you to access our free online portal, the SHAPE system, to assess and improve your multi-tiered system of mental health and well-being support for students and school staff.
Classroom WISE, Well-Being Information and Strategies for Educators, is a 3-part package that assists educators in supporting the mental health of students in the classroom. We started by talking to educators and mental health and education leaders across the country about what information and resources would be most helpful. We also conducted an environmental scan of educator mental health literacy training and resources.
We're bringing this to you because we know that educators are critical in supporting our students' well-being and overall mental health.
I think mental health and learning about mental health is crucial for every teacher, no matter what level you teach. We all deal with it.
Mental health training is so important for educators because they're in a position to know students really well. They know their students' strengths and their weaknesses. They have an understanding about what their needs are.
The course will go through not only how you can create safe and supportive classroom environments that promote an overall sense of well-being, but also some strategies that you can use to promote social emotional competencies in your students as well as in yourself, and also how you can support students who've experienced adversities or difficulties or who might be experiencing distress, and how you as a teacher can work as part of an overall team to get students the support that they need so that they can flourish in their school environment and in their learning.
The second part of the Classroom WISE package is a series of brief, high-impact videos with teachers and students talking about bringing mental health into the classroom and demonstrating how to engage students experiencing mental distress. The videos are in the course and available on our website.
The first mission that I have is to learn and get to know all of my students individually.
What makes me feel welcome in the classroom is that they give me a big warm smile. They ask me about my weekend.
Remember, we're talking about what we did this weekend. Josiah, I see you're really eager to share with us what you did this weekend. Can you tell us what happened?
I'm able to communicate to my students that I'm a safe person just by being emotionally available.
Teachers can make students feel more comfortable about approaching them with problems if they're more chill and open to listening to the kids.
I would want a teacher to comfort me and sit down and talk to me and give me some advice when I'm upset.
The third part of the Classroom WISE package is our website, www.classroomwise.org, where you'll find access to the online course, a video library, and all of the course resources, including tip sheets, guidelines, and links to key materials.
We understand the important role educators and school personnel play in supporting student mental health. Our goal is to equip you with strategies to promote student well-being and support students experiencing adversity, distress, and mental health challenges in the classroom. We hope you'll find this course impactful in your work.
So over the years, I feel like mental health has become more relevant in not just adults, but in students as well. And if a teacher is dealing with students, you have to teach the whole child.
So therefore, for me to take the certain classes that I need to take to make sure that I'm equipped to, deal with whatever the kids are feeling, kind of help them cope, I think it is so important that we continue to learn about mental health and how it could relate to our students.
I think it's incredibly important to train teachers in mental health because it's kind of the element that unlocks teaching because it's all built in relationships.
On behalf of the MHTTC Network and the National Center for School Mental Health, we hope you will find this online training course impactful in supporting the mental health of your students.
Okay. So I genuinely do absolutely love these videos. I think that having the inclusion of peer teachers and also real students and their testimonies are so impactful. There's some instances in that video every time that I see that still kind of give me goosebumps, which might be a little cheesy, but it's true. I love seeing those students kind of advocating for themselves and engaging in those ways. So now to really address the big question that many of you have about Classroom WISE, and this is kind of, what is it and what does it offer? What is the content that's included? And I'll speak a little bit about each module specifically, but as you can see here, there's 6 modules total, and these are kind of split up into 2 main sections. You've got modules 1 through 3, and then you've got modules 4 through 6. The differential is the purple and the orange. So modules 1 through 3 focus on promoting mental health and well-being for students, while modules 4 through 6 look at understanding and supporting students experiencing an adversity and distress. So this first big bucket, that purple there, and that is so imperative, is promoting the mental health and the well-being of students, which includes creating safe and supportive classroom environments and school environments, addressing stigma in the classroom, and fostering that social emotional competencies. Lots of buzzwords here, right, that we hear oftentimes in education now. So this will really align well with those tier 1 strategies that are being utilized if you're utilizing a multi-tiered systems of support for a comprehensive school mental health system. And these are those universal supports. These are the supports that all students are going to receive and be impacted by. Then our second big bucket here is the content that focuses on understanding and supporting students experiencing adversity and distress. And this includes really understanding the impact of trauma and adversity on learning and behavior of students. This also includes linking students to support and having impactful classroom strategies in your back pocket so that you can support students with mental health concerns as well. And when we think about the students that are going to be discussed in those modules 4 through 6, those that are experiencing adversity or distress, these are likely what we would consider in that tier 2 or tier 3, those higher tiers of support. And many things that you see here as you look at all of these different boxes here, all the different modules, these likely fit into things that you might be implementing in your school already. And so by looking at this, you might already be able to think about or asking yourself questions about how you can look at your professional development calendar and see how these may fit into what you already have planned, other initiatives across the school, and things like that. So that'll be a theme as we kind of run through this for the rest of the morning. So what are the modules? What is included? What is the nitty-gritty that is included in each of these 6 modules? First, I want to mention that each of the 6 modules, on average, it takes about 50 to 60 minutes to take these modules. We'll talk a little bit about that later, because I know that some of us might already be thinking, oh wow, this is almost 6 hours. But we'll kind of address that concerning question a little bit later on this morning. But for now, module 1. So this is really talking about safe and supportive classrooms and helping students feel safe in the spaces in the school. And we know that this is imperative for overall well-being of our students. And we really want to provide ways that they can feel confident that they have a safe space in the school that they can go to. And we ask questions like, what do we need to do to create these safe spaces? What guidance can we provide to help engage students in the classroom to feel both emotionally and physically safer in these spaces? Because we know if you're not feeling safe in the space that you're in, you're not ready to learn. And after the discussion of safe classrooms and safe environments, that school environment in module 1, module 2 then discusses how we can bring mental health into the classroom. This is that education piece. and it touches on how to integrate mental health in developmentally appropriate ways. And this includes addressing language to ensure that it's inclusive and not stigmatizing of mental health, as well as just providing some basic mental health literacy through the instruction that you're already doing. So again, this is an important thing to note, that one of the goals of Classroom WISE is to help you identify ways that you can thread the things you're learning through the activities and the tasks that you're already doing in your classroom or just in the school community. We're not totally recreating the wheel here. So as we move on to module 3, and remember this will be kind of that last module that's really kind of focusing on those tier 1 supports, those universal supports. And this is one that many of you are probably very well acquainted with. And this discusses social emotional learning. And Classroom WISE in module 3 uses the CASTLE framework, which some of you also may already be acquainted with. And this module presents ways to align with SEL, the work that you may already be doing. Again, it provides practical strategies for you to use to support students' social emotional learning. And as an example here, you'll see in the top left corner on the slide here, this is one of the lessons that's proposed to support, supporting educators in teaching those CASTLE core competencies. And for this one's example is self-awareness. And there are lessons designed and provided to you specifically for each of the core competencies. And this is just one example there. And I do want to note, because I think it's important, that in Classroom WISE that there's no proprietary packaging that's promoted. Everything is free as a part of Classroom WISE, all of the resources that are provided. You'll never be asked to pay at all. But you might be wondering, okay, this is a CASTLE framework. There's other SEL programs out there that might have similar practices and competencies, but within Classroom WISE, we've used the best practices that, while they might align with other SEL practices you're already utilizing, these are, those basic practices and competencies, not any proprietary content that you might find in other SEL programs. So module 4. We're jumping down to those kind of higher tiers and thinking about how to best support those students in facing adversity or experiencing distress. And module 4 is to help the school workforce learn to understand and support students experiencing that adversity. Surprise, I am in a school right now. I think Gatis mentioned at the top of the hour that as a part of my in addition to my work with MHTTC, I also work in a school as a clinician. So we will hear a bell. I will silence myself for a couple minutes, or for like 30 seconds, probably here in about 5 minutes, because we'll have a student over the intercom doing a pledge. Unless we all want to hear it, which could be fun too. But back to module 4. So now we are moving out of the tier 1 support from modules 1 and 3 and considering how to identify those students who may be at those higher tiers, tier 2 and 3. What we're looking at in this module is typical development. What is expected of students at certain stages of those development? What are signs of distress and how they can impact a student? How do we recognize distress? And what do we do when we've identified these students, such as linking to additional supports? And whether these supports are in the school and what you provide, or in the community as those referrals outside. Module 5 connects with trauma-informed practices. Many of you may already again be familiar with some of these practices, as it's really become a common topic of discussion in schools, which I personally feel like is a really important thing. The module provides information on trauma and its impacts on learning and behavior. An overview of adverse childhood experiences, those ACEs we may have heard of, is discussed, as well as the impact on trauma, the impact of trauma on learning and the functioning of the students, and specifically how that presents in the school environment. The module goes further than really just simply throwing information at you about trauma and things that we can look for, but it also provides really practical ways to integrate trauma-informed practices into teaching and the classroom setting. And this is something that I kind of want to pause on for a moment, is that all throughout Classroom WISE, we've all experienced those trainings where it's like information is just being thrown at you. And you kind of leave thinking, okay, well, now what do I do with this? I feel more knowledgeable, but what do I do? Classroom Wise is really intentional about making sure that those who are taking the courses walk away with some real tangible ideas of what they can actually start doing in the classroom immediately. So the final module here, module 6, we move our lens to help understand why behaviors may be happening. And this is where we discuss regulation and co-regulation through strategies teachers, again, can actually use. I'm a huge advocate for supporting youth and pretty much everyone in learning how to regulate and learning how to manage those emotions in appropriate ways, because we know that we see positive effects of this well beyond the classroom, though that is also extremely important. But we see this in other ways, and the other aspects of their life as well as beneficial, and beyond their academic careers. And now that you have a little bit better of a feel of the course content and what's included in Classroom Wise, I want to share what else is available to you beyond the course itself, beyond those modules. And right here on the screen, you'll see a quick screenshot of our Classroom Wise website. Kati, a little bit earlier, put in a link to this website if you wanted to go ahead and click and even browse around while we're discussing this today. Totally fine if that feels helpful to you. But the Classroom Wise website, this is what is going to be your go-to for everything Classroom Wise. It's all in one place. You'll go here to sign up for the course, as well as locate all of the additional resources that you may want to utilize that we'll continue to discuss. On the top right-hand corner, you see that purple button right here. That says launch course. You'll be asked this is where you're going to go to, of course, launch the course, sign up. You'll be asked to create an account for a platform called Healthy Knowledge. This is totally free. It's a very easy process in itself. And this is just the platform in which Classroom Wise is housed. And that's utilized because it really allows for some ways to engage with the content as well. You'll also notice that this is where you can find more information about Classroom Wise, the developers, much of what we've already discussed, as well as the video library and the resource collection. And we will gear up for that pledge in just a moment. So here we go. I'll put myself on mute. So take a moment for yourself. All right, thank you for your patience there. Hopefully you had a nice quick 15-second break, at least a break from my voice. So in addition to the online course, we've developed a series of brief, high-impact videos that incorporate both staff and student voice, as well as incorporating the strategies that teachers are utilizing to give those that are taking the course ideas and examples on how to help all students feel welcome in the classroom, as well as identifying strategies throughout all of the content in Classroom Wise. Again, these videos may be one of my favorite components of Classroom Wise because they really show how strategies discussed can be implemented in the real world. You're hearing from peers, you're hearing from other teachers that are in the field that are utilizing these strategies. We're hearing the student perspective, which is so important to how we understand how we can best serve our students. And I know that is sometimes, it's easy for the student voice to get lost oftentimes as we start to think about things that we're implementing in our school. So I'm really happy to see that this is an integral part of what Classroom Wise is and promotes. So all of these videos are threaded throughout the modules. So you'll see them as you're kind of running through the modules, and they also exist as standalone products as well. So like I mentioned before, there's that video library that is housed on the Classroom WISE website. So if this is great because if you're doing some sort of professional development on a standalone topic, you yourself can utilize these videos. You can use this library to go and kind of identify some videos that really show examples to provide some context of whatever it is you may be working on that day, or whatever your specific priorities are within the school and within those either grade level meetings, PD meetings, whatever it is you're working on. The website also houses a comprehensive resource collection, and this includes tip sheets, toolkits, and educator-friendly examples developed specifically for this project. And it also includes resources that have been developed by other national experts in school mental health that accompany the online course. While, of course, the modules themselves are really helpful, this is a wonderful additional resource for you. And I also want to mention, of course, it's not an exhaustive resource. This is not all of, for example, all of the resources that exist for SEL, but it is a great resource for additional in-depth information and kind of a nice go-to. I find myself going here oftentimes as kind of a first stop when I have a question about a specific topic that I know is covered in Classroom WISE, instead of having to kind of run around on the internet, Googling around, trying to identify resources. They're already there in a really nice collection. And so, like I said, if there's a particular area that you're interested in increasing your knowledge, or you think that there's a topic that's especially applicable to you or your schools, this is a really great place to find that information. And I'll also note throughout the modules, you'll also see that there will be an icon anytime that there's an additional resource linked to whatever is being discussed in that moment. And you can just click on that icon and it'll take you to all of the resources that are being discussed. And you can check those resources out as they come. And that's what I did when I was taking Classroom WISE. Anytime that I would see those, the little icon pop up, I would go to the links, see if there's anything that felt particularly relevant to me, and just go ahead and save those on my desktop. And, you know, we can be real about that. I know that we don't all and rarely do have time just to go and really dig through and digest a bunch of resources. But at the very least, if you're doing that, you know that you have some resources available for when you might need them. So Classroom WISE is a new resource package, and we know that those of you on the call today either have a deep experience with how to introduce and implement new resources or initiatives in schools, or you at least have experienced that implementation happening. So when we're thinking about what to add to your school, because I know that there are many different resources out there, it's important to really consider any new practices or initiatives to be adopted that really bring advantages or that kind of value add relative to what currently exists on the market. And Classroom WISE has specifically been designed to eliminate a number of barriers that many other mental health trainings for teachers face. So as you see on the screen here, we've got a number of those listed, and the first one is cost. Many mental health literacy trainings are costly, and funds are precious in education. We know this. We believe that mental health knowledge should be accessible to everyone regardless of cost. And Classroom WISE is completely free. There are no costs, nor there will be, associated with the use of Classroom WISE. The second here is pace. We know that we're very well acquainted with the fact that everyone learns differently. And having this be a self-paced program means that it's more accessible to learning and retention for a diverse audience. And we also consider the duration. This course is efficiently packaged with a lot of essential information for you. Averaging at about 6 hours per trainee, the length of this training is ideal, really considering the large amount of information that's provided. And again, I know that 6 hours, we're looking at that and maybe we're thinking, that's almost a full day. But that's one of the beautiful things about Classroom WISE is that we really can allow some flexibility for timing. The course is available 24/7, 365 days a year. And now I'm sure that I said that. I'm sure there will be maintenance on the site tomorrow, but there's no schedule tomorrow that I'm aware of, but it will be available at all times. And unlike standalone trainings, anyone can access this training at any time. We know that you have full plates. Educators are one of the busiest professions. You're being pulled in a million directions. We wanted to make this training to be as accessible as possible for anyone's schedule. Also, we understand that online trainings can often be dry, unengaging. Hopefully that's not your experience today, but I'll totally take it if it feels that way. Our priority was to make Classroom WISE as accessible to as many people as possible. And we worked hard to really design this course with a balance of accessibility and interactivity. So you'll notice when you take the course, there are multiple instances when you actually engage with what's on the screen through various activities that allow you to really practice and apply the knowledge that you're receiving, rather than just having it constantly thrown at you. And there are some times you're asked to apply that and engage with the content. So I have a question, and thank you for asking this. Are we going to be able to get steps in setting up the portal? So I will say, today we will not go into kind of the nitty-gritty details of how to set that up, but I will make sure that we share the implementation guide, which we are about to discuss, which includes step-by-step instructions on how to sign up for Classroom WISE. So I'll make sure that that's a part of the resources that you receive as a follow-up to today's presentation. So really great introduction. So thank you, Aaron, for that question. So while we worked hard to overcome a lot of the barriers to the implementation of this course, we know that there is a lot to consider when planning implementation, such as whether or not it will be suggested or reviewed or required to view modules. We're beginning to think about questions on how this is actually going to work in a school. And to support this, the MHTTC has developed a Classroom WISE implementation guide, as you see here. And this resource is really helpful in thinking about how you can implement this program within your schools. And of course, it includes an overview of Classroom WISE that you've heard today. It includes those step-by-step instructions on how to sign up for the course. It asks some guiding questions to help you think about how to fit Classroom WISE in your school, and also provide some considerations and suggestions on how to implement, including thinking about the roles and responsibilities of staff, ways to have staff complete modules, and as well as how to provide that ongoing support. It also discusses who to incorporate and align Classroom WISE, or how to incorporate it and align it with current initiatives and policies that you have in your school. And perhaps most importantly and helpful is there's, again, some testimonials from schools who have already implemented Classroom WISE in their schools. So you'll have an opportunity to see and read about how peers in the field are approaching this process, as well as the results that they've seen. So now briefly, we'll kind of run through some of these implementation questions and strategies that you might want to think about to supplement this implementation guide. And all of this is included in the implementation guide as well. So the first step we have here is viewing the modules yourself, so you can get a better feel and a better understanding of what the content is within the course. Then you'll want to think about what the expectation is. I know there's always a concern about adding one more thing onto staff plates. And I think that that's a really important consideration. So we'll want to think about, is this required? Is this suggested? Do you want staff to review all of the modules? Or are there maybe specific modules that address high concerns? What's the most important here is really thinking about what works best for your school. And we know that nobody knows your school better than you. So these are questions that, we want to help you think through some of these questions and provide some questions that maybe would be helpful. But really, it's going to be you and your staff and your leadership in your school that are going to be able to best answer these questions to know what's best for you as far as implementation. You'll also want to think about ongoing support. Does this get included in grade level meetings, in professional development? Do you need additional support and coaching for teachers, for other staff? And also, what are some natural ways for staff to share their learning and really support each other? We also want to consider what the roles will be for each staff person with implementation. And we have some listed here. So let's talk about it. Administrative roles, what's their role in the implementation of ClassroomWise, or really what could it be? And this can look like communication about alignment with strategic priorities that the school or the district have. How does this address student needs? What are the student needs? Clearly explaining the purpose of how it will be supported through ClassroomWise. We also have school mental health professionals, and these are those professionals that are in a position to support the application in terms of discussion of key topics and problem solving, using their professional knowledge in that way. And very importantly, we want to engage the educators, our teachers, right? Our lifeblood of the education system. And we can utilize those individuals by allowing them to provide feedback to school mental health professionals and administrators about the application with their students in their classrooms and their experience implementing strategies, or anything that they notice in terms of the student response, adjustments that need to be made, and as well as how well they feel they are able to implement these strategies with their students. We really want to encourage the engagement of our educators as critical stakeholders in providing feedback during implementation. So now we're gonna jump off, and I'll actually kind of go back before we jump too far away from ClassroomWise and jump into CIE-wise. I just wanted to pause for a moment, allow us to kind of take a breath and see if there's any questions about ClassroomWise that have come up over as we've been discussing. If you want, you can pop those in the chat, in the Q&A, but it's also okay if we don't have questions. All right, so we'll continue on. So now we're going to jump to cultural inclusiveness and equity WISE. And this is our recently released companion online course to ClassroomWise, companion to ClassroomWise, that is. And this also comes with high impact videos and a resource collection, which will be housed on that same ClassroomWise website. Educators will learn how inequities in education impact student mental health and how implicit biases influence our perception and response. And this is building on this foundation. Educators will learn culturally inclusive classroom strategies and ways to utilize those culturally inclusive strategies to support mental health for our students. And again, we're going to go to a quick video on one of these other high impact videos to show you a little bit about CIE-wise.
Same. People have all sorts of different backgrounds and come from all different walks of life. And in order to feel included in a classroom setting, I feel like you need to be recognized as a person. If all of those different beautiful things that make us individuals are overlooked and are not recognized, then we don't feel included. And then we don't feel like we can be vulnerable and be part of a learning environment. Building culturally responsive identity and teaching through that, I think, is important because at a middle school level, people are solidifying their identities. Oftentimes, I like to think that people see that through different examples in literature, but that doesn't always happen. So I think the best way to do that is to talk about characters that you see, what their cultural identity is, and to discuss how you resonate with that. If your culture is different, to discuss what you would do if you were in their shoes, because that allows you to have a voice. But the other really great thing to do is to build natural conversations into your day and to chisel out that time that's maybe not academic. So in your homeroom, or maybe even the first 10 minutes of every class, having a question that goes around that's maybe, what did you do over the weekend? Or what's your family's favorite meal? Things like that. Allow people to speak to who their cultural identity is within themselves in a way that allows them to repeat it and have that be okay, and have it be okay to be different, and even be really cool to be different.
I am part of the equity team on my school. Not only do we talk about mental health, we also talk about how race plays into mental health and how systematic racism has shown up in our Black and Brown community. For me, culturally responsive is kind of my lens that I always look through, in a sense, to make sure that not only am I identifying a behavior, but I'm trying to find the root of that behavior, wherever that goes, however that pans out.
That's interesting. All right. So that was just a brief introduction to CIE WISE and some of the content that it includes, as well as, I think, a really wonderful highlight of the importance of this type of learning. So now we're going to jump into discussion of the modules, and I am aware we have a little under 10 minutes left, but that'll be plenty of time for us to kind of work through these and still get you out of here on time. So Module 1 of CIE WISE helps staff better understand how social injustices may impact student mental health. And this content includes a historical discussion of racism, the benefits of inclusivity as it relates to student mental health, and describes how social injustices result in inequities in schools. And after Module 1, in Module 2, we're really poised to understand our own biases. We answer questions like, what is implicit bias? Where can it be seen in the school system? We use this knowledge to then understand how these implicit biases impact our perceptions of students, as well as our response to student mental health and academic needs. And once we have an understanding of, once we have an understanding of the historical context of social injustices, the impacts of our own biases, Module 3 will provide those practical strategies, again, those practical strategies that you can actually use in your classrooms and in your school communities. We are kind of given the opportunity through this learning to reflect on our own biases, which we all have, engage students in the classroom. We ask questions like, how can we create safe spaces utilizing a culturally inclusive lens? And finally, there's Module 4. This is the final module, and it focuses on how to then support students who are experiencing distress and doing this in a way that utilizes a culturally inclusive perspective. We know that student behavior and emotion and the emotions that they experience are closely tied to their cultural background, and it's vital to understand these connections, as well as how we can utilize strengths-based approaches with our students as well as their families. This includes when we're connecting families to resources in the community and generally promoting student wellness in the classroom, in the school, and throughout their lives. So I know that we have seen this already. Well, let me just kind of close this out with the modules. There are 4 modules, and similar to Classroom WISE, they're all around 50 to 60 minutes as well. And that's a little brief introduction to all of those. But now we have the Classroom WISE website on our screen again. So I know we've already seen it, but I wanted to show it to you again because this is also where you'll find all of the content for CIE WISE. And like I mentioned before, this also includes the standalone video library that can be used as a pretty extensive collection of resources for you. It also has all of those additional resources and readings and articles and everything that you can help utilize on all of these topics as well. You'll see once you go there, there will be a link to CIE WISE as well. And that course will be an additional course within the Healthy Knowledge. So you won't have to sign up for Healthy Knowledge twice. It will just be an additional course that you'll find through that platform. And we'll provide instructions for that as well. So with that, I want to open up and see if there are any questions. We have about 5 minutes left. If there are any questions, happy to answer those. I do see a question here about asking if individual staff are able to take the course on their own if their school is not implementing. Yes, absolutely, 100%. And what a wonderful and amazing thing for you to consider. These resources are available to anyone free of charge. All you have to do is just go online and sign up, which will send those instructions and review the course modules and information. This is something that you as an individual can take on as well, even if your school is not implementing. So a question here about what resistance have you experienced or advice you have as we implement? I think that this is a really great question, and this tells me that you're already thinking about this in a really wonderful way. And I think that when we're implementing any new program, and especially I see this when we're thinking about school mental health, for a lot of staff members, this is new. This isn't something that they have been expected to learn before, and it can be seen as one other thing for them to have to learn and implement in their classroom on top of everything else that they have to do. And I think that this is a question about buy-in. We really want to make sure that we're engaging all of our staff in this process and making sure that they feel comfortable and feel like they have a voice. So that's could mean, making sure that when you're implementing this on your team, you do have those educators as a part of it. And I always say, if there's someone who is often resistant to implementing these types of programs or any new program, put them on the team, give them that voice, allow them to play a role so that they have that buy-in. And I think it's also making sure that we're also taking the time to allow teachers to understand, or any staff really, I'm not saying this is just teachers, make sure that any staff can really understand the need for these and also the benefits that they will see. We want to make sure that there's buy-in. What's this going to do for me? I mean, right? Because we all think about that way, whether we want to admit it or not. So educating them on how providing these positive behavior supports and mental health would allow for them to, be better educators, changing that classroom environment, and also allowing their students to learn more and allowing them to teach in ways that they know how. And so before you leave us today, I do want to point out that we do have a survey. Thank you for your questions. We do have a survey. Let me get to it right here. So on the screen, you'll see a QR code. You can scan that and click the link here for our survey. This is a requirement by our funder. One, we always want to make sure that we're constantly improving the programs that we have. So your feedback is important to that process, but also the completion of these surveys are tied to our funding. So you filling this out, it is brief. It'll take less than 5 minutes. This will allow us to continue to provide these resources for you all for free. And I will go ahead as you all are filling out that. It looks like I have one question here, and it's, I used to work in the schools. I'm now in a part-time role, not in a school. However, I support the school with bereavement. Can I take the course? Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that question. You can 100% take the course. I would say even if you don't work in a school, you can take the course. It's available for anyone. There's not any firewall that's going to, make you put in an email that requires, a school email or anything like that. These resources are available to anyone in the public, really. So absolutely, please feel free to engage in the course, take the course. That is available to you and to anyone as well. Thank you for that question. So one thing that I want to say before we wrap up is just a humongous thank you. I want to thank all of you for engaging in this work, all of the hard work that you do. I understand that our day-to-day can be really challenging, and seeing so many of you here taking the time to learn how to better support your students just shows how much you care and how seriously you take your role. So I want to commend you for that. I want to acknowledge that, and I want to celebrate that. So thank you for being here. Thank you for spending this hour with me. And I hope that you all have a really wonderful rest of your days. If you do need anything, we'll send out an email within the week that you can always feel free to kind of reach out. I'll make sure that my email is included there. So if you have any questions, always feel free to reach out. So thank you all for being here. Thank you all for the work that you do, and thanks for being you.